The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Hooray for Hollywood, where stars are living large, in mansions with their servants and their credit cards in charge, with fame that's fleeting, but the egos never change, where everyone's a genius, except the ones who really arrange. Hooray for Hollywood, where the scandals always sell, where every whispered secret is a new tabloid's tell. Oh, how we adore the endless red carpet galore. Hooray for Hollywood, where less is always more.
Might help if I actually remember to add us back to the stage.
Yeah, we do have to appear back on camera, don't we?
Yeah, unfortunately. Hello, and welcome to Damn You Hollywood. I'm your host, Alexis Hayna, and here he is, made of plastic and elastic. He is rugged and long-lasting. Who could ever ask for more? Mr. Robert Winfrey.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
Dresden Dolls.
That's it. Okay.
It was either going to be that or Crank It Out by the Caesar, or Jerk It Out by Caesars.
You went with the better choice.
Thank you.
Now, if I could remember the Stretch Armstrong jingle, I'd use that to introduce Jason Teasley, but I cannot. So Jason Teasley's here with us. How you doing, Jason?
Doing good. Still almost a week later trying to figure out what I watched and what we'll be talking about tonight.
Well, we are discussing The Monkey.
Monkey is a 2020...
I had to do it once.
That was adorable. Whitest man in the room trying to dance. You are so adorable.
Yeah, that one caught me off guard.
Somewhere in I was the right age for this to lodge in my brain, but there was a Cartoon Network skit from a Johnny Bravo cartoon where he just says, "Everybody do the monkey."
Yeah.
And then like a bunch of cartoon characters zip in, and that is just in my head for some reason. Johnny Bravo going, "Everybody do the monkey."
Well, he did that on during the opening number. It was always,
that was it.
Do the monkey, come on! And everyone started. Yeah, it was just everyone started dancing, and then he'd hit on a chick, and she'd punch him, and then it'd say created by blah blah blah, and then the cartoon would start.
Yep. So we're talking about The Monkey, featuring not Johnny Bravo.
2025 American comedy horror film written and directed by the director who I think is officially taken over the title of weirdest director now that David Lynch has sadly passed on, Mr. Osgood Perkins. This is based on
Perkins and Yorgos are kind of neck and neck for it.
Yeah, no kidding. This is based off of the 1980s short story written by Stephen King, stars Theo James, although I'm convinced that somewhere James Franco is lying dead with his face cut off.
One can hope.
No, seriously, am I the only one who thinks Theo James in this movie looks like a scary amount like
No, you are definitely not the only one.
It's very passable.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, it's James Franco, except, not a creep.
He could have entered a James Franco lookalike contest with this one. I don't think he would have won, but he could have entered.
Definitely. Also, Tatiana Maslany, Christian Convery, Colin O'Brien, Rohan Campbell, Sarah Levy, Adam Scott, and Elijah Wood. Follows twin brothers whose lives are turned upside down by a cursed toy monkey that causes random horrific deaths around them. One of my favorite things about this film is that the short story, it is the classic cymbal banging monkey that we all know. But the studio realized they couldn't use that because who of all people owns the rights to that but Disney? Because of the cymbal clanging monkey in Toy Story 3. But here's the fun part. The director of Toy Story 3 admitted he's a huge fan of Stephen King, and the monkey was
that's why he used the monkey.
So it's like he tried to do an homage to Stephen King and kept them from using the monkey in the actual Stephen King adaptation.
Yeah, the short story is part of the Skeleton Crew collection, and lamentably, I didn't have time. I wound up not having enough time to go back and reread it. It's short, and I have like 3 different versions of Skeleton Crew because I have not quite everything King's written, but almost. I just didn't quite get around to rereading that one, but it's apparently the first one. Because Skeleton Crew I think that was my first Stephen King book. That's a collection of short stories. It has The Mist at the beginning, and The Mist is almost a novella, basically. And
Mine is
so
his Night Shift collection.
it was one of those collections. And so when one of my brothers was like, "Hey, I want to get into Stephen King," that's the book that's the collection I gave him. Like, here, this will give you a pretty decent overview of a few different aspects of King's writing and see if you enjoy it or not. And the first story in that group that kind of freaked him out was the monkey. So I didn't quite get the chance to go back and reread it, but yeah, it's a fairly typical short Stephen King story. It's only, I don't know, a couple of pages. It's really not. It was weird going from The Mist, which again, basically a novella, too, because that's followed immediately by, I think Here Be Tigers, which is very short. And there's like several right after that one that are like, 2 pages at most. And The Monkey's somewhere in that vicinity. It's not very long, but it's, if memory serves, Frank Darabont used to have the rights to The Monkey. And then he was trying to develop it at the same time he was developing The Mist and focused on The Mist, which I think was the better call, all things considered.
Yeah,
With the greatest
unfortunately,
ending of any movie ever.
I am so torn on that ending still. But
yeah, that movie will be forever known for 2 things: the ending and the laughably bad special effects.
have you seen it in black and white?
No.
It was originally meant to be done in black and white, so there are black and white cuts.
When are studios going to learn black and white movies work?
But if you watch it in black and white, all those CGI problems are gone. And it's just kind of freaky.
Nice. I'll have to remember that.
But yeah, that and what's the other black and white one that I Fury Road in black and they call it like chrome black and chrome edition is actually really good too. So.
And did you see the Godzilla -1 - color?
I did not. It didn't play near enough to me. So now I'm got to wait till I can find it streaming somewhere with that feature on. But yeah. So anyway, enough dilly-dallying. Let's jump into The Monkey. So this starts in 1999, the before times, if you will. Actually, it would be before. There have been, 3 pretty catastrophically world-altering events since 1999, and I'm just not sure how to handle that as I think about it. It was pre-9/11, it was pre-market, it was pre-global market crash, and it was pre-COVID. Like, the world was a radically different place.
Yeah,
Anyway.
we are officially living the timeline of that scene from the Ballad of Buster Scruggs when with the guy with the noose around his neck going, first time?
First time, yep. So we follow twin brothers throughout the course of this movie, Hal and Bill. We actually open with their dad trying to get rid of the titular monkey. He takes it to a pawn shop. The monkey's like, "No, you don't get to get rid of me," and murders the pawn shop owner through there's a little bit of Final Destination that goes on throughout.
Yeah, this is Final Destination with the monkey.
This is Final Destination, but you're allowed to actually laugh at the deaths.
I did in Final Destination anyway, because I'm a terrible person.
Okay, fair. Okay, there's something different when you're actually allowed to laugh at it, because when I saw the trailer for the new Final Destination movie, I hear the theme song to the Mousetrap board game playing in my head. It's like, you can't take it seriously, but that movie wants you to take it seriously. This movie knows you're not going to take it seriously. So,
a little bit, yeah. So, kills the pawn shop owner hilariously, but there's a flamethrower for sale. So the dad takes the monkey out into the parking lot and, like Leonardo DiCaprio at a Manson family member, just burns that sucker to the ground.
Things you never thought you'd see. Adam Scott dressed as a pilot using a flamethrower to fricassee a toy monkey.
Yeah, that was the thing. So we fast forward a little bit again to 1999, where his children, the aforementioned twin boys, he's left their family. There's a loose implication that he might be dead, but it's never actually confirmed. So he's just gone, deadbeat dad. There's a running theme of deadbeat fathers in this movie, so may as well get that out of the way. And his sons, and you have Bill, who's the more assertive one and is kind of a jackass, and you have Hal, who's a bit more retiring and kind of a pushover. And they're struggling a little bit. Again, their mom is a single mother trying to make everything work. And we get a little bit of a window into their life. And then while going through their dad's closet of junk, because he was, as mentioned, a pilot and would bring stuff back from his different trips and locations for them, they stumble across the monkey and its box. And they wind it up and they let it go because they're curious what happens. And the thing is, every time the monkey plays, it violently murders somebody somewhere, usually in proximity, but not always. And this kills somebody, and oh boy, we're not quite sure what to do with that for a little
It doesn't
bit.
just kill somebody. You caught the name of the babysitter it kills, right?
Oh, was Annie
Wilkes.
right?
It's like somewhere in a parallel universe.
Right.
In a parallel universe, the misery stories ended without complications.
No kidding. So yeah, kills their babysitter, who gets decapitated at a Benihana knockoff. World's sharpest cleaver, by the way, to make that happen in one smooth thing.
Yeah.
No kidding. It's like I would kill for knives that sharp.
We can talk later. But Bill is partially responsible for Hal getting bullied at school, and Hal then winds up the monkey and goes, I really want you to kill my brother. And the monkey points and laughs, like monkeys do, and instead gives his mother what they called a boomerang aneurysm. So she then dies in front of Bill, bleeding from the eyes, nose, ears, and mouth, like you do when your brain kind of explodes.
Fun way to go.
They are sent to live with their aunt and uncle in Maine because Stephen King.
Yeah, it's like, it's Maine. Take a shot.
Indeed. And they wind up the monkey one more time because they kind of figure out something's a little bit off with it, because Hal chops it into small pieces with a meat cleaver and then sends it on a garbage truck. And it shows back up when they arrive in Maine, like, you can't get rid of me that easily. I'm a metaphor. And then we all go, oh boy. So they wind it up, they let it go, and their uncle is then trampled to death by a herd of wild horses in Maine on a hunting trip.
Director's cameo. The man end up looking like, what did they call it? A spilled cherry pie.
Yep. So they decide, you know what? This thing is not good. Let's get rid of it. They chain it up. They pull a Jumanji and dump it down a well. Then we fast forward to where the rest of the bulk of the story takes place. And the monkey returns and gets the poor aunt, who's still alive, to die in a very unpleasant fashion. She falls face first into a bunch of fish hooks, then pulls them out, and then accidentally has her head set on fire and goes screaming, running out the door, and impales her head on the realtor sign that was stuck in the front yard. I don't know what that poor actress did to Oz Perkins, but she gets the meanest death in this movie.
I don't know. The conclusion death is pretty crazy.
We will be voting on who has the best death at the end of this, no question.
Again, that's the meanest. Like, that one you suffer the most.
Well, it's so sad because the reason her head bursts into flames is because she had to use rubbing alcohol after pulling all those fish hooks out. Had that not happened, she probably would have lost her eyebrows and needed to go to the hospital, but I don't think her head would have gone whoosh.
Yeah, but instead she turns into a budding fire elemental and just...
I was going to go with Ghost Rider.
Nah, that's a better reference.
I was going to say Flame On.
Yeah, we're all getting there. So, Hal is contacted about his dead aunt stuff. And he's got a kid that he sees only once a year for his kid's birthday because he is worried about passing on the mountain of trauma and baggage that he's carrying from his dad and then the monkey, and bad things happen to the people around him. So if I keep you at arm's length, you're safer. But his son, who's a teenager, is like doing teenager things and is just not really understanding of this. And his ex, the mother of his kid, is married to Elijah Wood, who I really wanted to watch die in this. I mean,
I know, right?
I really wanted to watch that little douchebag die because, good grief, what a contemptible prick.
It's like, seriously, how do you build up Elijah Wood as such a douche and not have him as a victim of the monkey?
Yeah, only major negative. I feel like they probably because they could only afford to have Elijah Wood on set for one day. So, but he and his son then go. His son is Petey, named after Hal's father. And so they go, and Bill calls them and says, go deal with our aunt's stuff. See if you can find out what's up with the monkey. So he goes to start that off. There's a guy that Bill has paid to kind of keep an eye out for the monkey around town who buys the monkey because it reminds him of his deadbeat dad, a police officer who's no longer in the picture. And he delivers the monkey to, we later find out, Bill. It's not terribly difficult to figure that part out. So Hal and Petey go to the house, and Petey's trying to connect with his dad, trying to fill out a family tree, asking him about his past, and Hal lies about having any siblings, is reticent to discuss his mother, who he kind of killed, so it's understandable, but still just doesn't bring it up. Then there's a very awkward conversation where the realtor expresses that she talked with Hal's brother Bill, so Petey gets a little bit pissy about all this. They go through the house. A shotgun falls off of a rack and blows the poor realtor literally in half.
No one dies quietly in this movie. Nearly every death, it's like Quentin Tarantino on steroids. I mean, everyone must be hiding a million blood packs in every crevice of their body.
Well,
there was an earlier scene where Hal is kind of inspired to take up the cause when a nice woman jumps into an electrified swimming pool and explodes.
Which was awesome.
It's awesome, but boy, you need so much electricity to get that into a swimming pool for it to be dangerous, given the volume of water at play. But I know way too much about that for unrelated reasons, I promise.
Every day, Robert, I get a little bit more and more concerned about you.
So
I do just love Hal just screaming. No, I was just saying, I just love Hal screaming, God, is that a leg? As the leg flies at him.
A little bit of that, yeah. So they look around for the monkey. They can't quite find it, but now you see the weird skater kid has got a taste of the precious and wants it back. And
we also find out that people have been dying very bizarre deaths in this town, like for the whole week.
Yeah, a lot of them just dropping dead in weird ways, and someone's using the monkey pretty clearly. And the long and the short of this, we come to find out is, because we switched to Bill's perspective, the monkey showed him as it was being thrown into the well that Hal wound him up, and that's what caused their mother to die. So he went back to try and get the monkey, but he could only find the key. He's been looking for the monkey ever since because everyone needs the precious. And eventually he got the monkey back, and now he's been turning it and getting it to go and trying to get it to kill Hal, and it just won't kill Hal, and it's just massacring people in this small town in Maine. And the people have started making a celebration out of this. The cheer squad comes out for every random death to cheer. They're bringing out the body.
That I didn't get at first. That was so weird.
But eventually the kid who wants the monkey now abducts Hal and Petey and takes them to the location of Bill, sends Petey in to okay, go get the monkey and bring it to me because I need it. And while he's in there, Bill talks with Petey a little bit and gets Petey to wind up the monkey, and the monkey plays, and this time it kills our Gollum stand-in a really unpleasant way. There's a whole hive of hornets of some
I was
variety.
were those hornets or wasps? I don't.
I'd have to double check the. I think mostly it's hornets that build their nests like that. That big shape wasps tend to be
More honeycomb.
Yeah. Well, they also don't do freestanding in trees like that very often.
Okay.
Someone might be able to correct me on that, but because yellow jackets are fully ground dwelling, some hornets are ground dwelling, some build in the air. But
either way, they buzz, they sting, and they fly into the dude's mouth like it's a Tom and Jerry cartoon.
Anyway, they are one of God's mistakes. So I have a joke about that only works if you're kind of also LDS, but I'll leave it alone. That the joke is that, there were some people who should not have had a hand in the creation before the war in heaven. So the joke there being that some of the people who sided with Lucifer before he fell had a hand, like, hey, what if we create, wasps or mosquitoes or box elder bugs? And like, you deserve to go to hell just for those things existing. They are the worst. But yeah, so this whole hive of hornets just right into this kid's mouth, basically explodes him from the inside. Hal goes in to talk with Bill. They have a bit of a heart-to-heart as brothers and kind of actually make peace. And then right before this, Bill just desperately tries to force the monkey to play, and the monkey won't do it. So then the monkey throws a temper tantrum, plays a lot, and causes a mild apocalypse to break out across this town. Planes fall from the sky.
So just add this to Jerusalem and Derry, Maine, as towns that Stephen King has effectively just had the world swallow back up.
Yeah, pretty much. But the brothers have their heart-to-heart. They finally seem to make peace. And then the monkey's final note plays, and Bill is executed with a bowling ball to the head. But now Hal and Petey take the monkey and like, you know what? We're just going to keep an eye on you. We're never going to turn the key. We're just going to make sure you stay here, because if we're looking at you, you can't teleport away. And you're just kind of going to be our thing, and we're going to take ownership of you and make sure nothing bad happens. And as they drive through the wreckage of this town, with some truly wonderful shots, by the way, like I was sad that some of those didn't play up better. Like the mother pushing the stroller that's on fire is such a wonderful visual. It's sad it's wasted on that one gag. They come to a crossroads, they stop, and then the Horseman of Death kind of rides by. They have a moment of acknowledgement. Then Hal's like, you know what? I know what we should do. You see, after we went to the funeral with my mother for our babysitter back in the beginning, she gave us the lecture about how the only thing guaranteed in life is death and suffering. And it's important to understand that and to just own it. And all you can do is try to do the best you can in the face of that. So let's go dancing. We'll go find a spot and we'll have a good time, even though all this tragedy has happened. And Petey seems amenable. They drive off. The bus full of cheerleaders drives into frame, and then the semi driving the opposite direction decapitates all of them as they're hanging out of the school bus windows, which is why you don't do that, by the way, people. Just don't do it. We all did. We all thought it was fun to hang our arms out the window, but there's a reason you're not supposed to. And on that note, the monkey comes to a close.
All right. Jason, I know that you got to bounce early tonight, so I'm going to have you start us off with your thoughts on this film. Like I said, I loved it. The first thing you messaged me after seeing was, I still have no idea what I just watched.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure it out. The stripper with the monkey face, the just some of the visuals were just insanely weird. But it was one of those movies that you can't, like you said earlier, you can't take too seriously. you could just kind of just watch it, and you have to pay attention because really you don't know what the hell you're watching. This is like Robert was saying about it. It's a very short story that is very bloated to make it into a movie. So that's where a lot of the visuals and stuff come in. Uh, the the storyline was very, very thin, but the kills were amazing.
Mhm.
So, I mean, just the kills alone was worth watching the movie. So, I enjoyed it, but still have no idea what to watch. The best part was especially how it starts. You know, you see a harpoon go through somebody and then retract to pull out their intestines. That kind of set the tone of what kind of movie this was going to be. The overly violent deaths and some of the scenes like the girl exploding, the uncle just being unzipped from the bag and it just looks like a thing of strawberry jam just out there,
And
and
like I
you're
say,
like,
credit to the director for being willing to turn himself into that.
yeah, I mean, and like we was talking earlier offline, the the aunt's death was just so ridiculous but awesome as well, because you could really, that it's a probable way to die, highly unlikely, but running outside with your head on fire, stepping in a milk can, and going down a hill face first into a realtor sign is a little crazy, but it's not out of the realm of actually happening. Somebody could have that bad of luck, and I probably
It,
know them.
it's just the right side of Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the Looney Tunes was the whole bee thing. Uh,
Yeah, like I know I
Alexis,
wasn't kidding. I know of at least one Tom and Jerry cartoon where Tom gets a mouthful of bees.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah. I mean, that. You have a bullet hole that goes through the front windshield into a bee's nest, only for the bees to make a perfectly straight line that goes into a young man's mouth. That
Completely
was insane.
ignoring the other guy in the car.
Yeah, that is insane. Um, but again, it's ridiculously awesome for what this movie was. I recommend just watching it just so, because you can interpret it. I think there's a lot of different interpretations. You might be able to pull from it. Um, Strictly because the brothers' relationship was very malicious on one way, and it shows that the whole bowling ball thing is a callback from earlier in the movie when he wants to, after being picked on, he picks up his mother's bowling ball and wants to drop it on his brother's head while he sleeps to kill him before deciding to use the monkey instead. Uh, the whole scene about when he cuts the monkey up and just the the like dream sequence that goes on there is really psychedelic. It reminds me of something that maybe Rob Zombie would throw in one of his movies.
The Coen
Um,
brothers have used it more than once as well.
I kind of like
There's
the
that whole
purposely.
sequence in The Big Lebowski that's based
Oh yeah,
around that one.
I kind of like the purposely bad green screen effect around Hal as he's falling through the psychedelia.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and like we was talking about earlier, this movie, it tries to set itself up to be, you know, quote unquote serious, but it's like tongue in cheek that, okay, these are going to be so absurd deaths that you can't take this movie serious.
Well, I think I got an interview here with Perkins, and that was part of what he brought. Rob and I were talking about this before the show started. Both of Osgood Perkins' parents died in, we're just going to say, headline making ways. His father, who some of you probably know, is horror icon Anthony Perkins of Psycho fame. tragically passed away of AIDS-related pneumonia, and his mother was on one of the planes on September 11th. So,
Oh wow.
yeah. So, Osgood Perkins talks about how he spent a lot of time recovering from the tragedy, feeling quite bad. And how we tend to personalize our grief. You know, why is this happening to me? Why have I had to go through this? But as you get older and you work through your grief, you realize it wasn't you. It wasn't just you. This kind of shit happens to everyone. Everyone dies. Some people die in their sleep. Some people die in, as he put it, truly insane ways. And so he says, and I thought maybe the best way to approach that insane notion is with a smile.
Kind of all you can do.
Mm-hmm.
You either you laugh or you lose your mind crying.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like it's either you accept it or you drive yourself insane to the point of mental breakdown to where you're not able to recover from your grief.
Well, it says right on the box that contains the toy, actually, they think it says lifelike, and it says no, it says like life.
Random and cruel.
Mm-hmm. I also love the comedic elements because we have seen quite a few movies about possessed toys, demonic toys, cursed toys, and they usually play them extremely serious to the point that I'm watching.
Depending on which entry into the Child's Play franchise we're talking about. Like
Yeah.
the first one, yes, but that franchise rapidly devolves into utter insanity, including Chucky in the White House. Believe it or not, if you're not familiar with.
I was thinking more Annabelle and the scene in the first Annabelle movie where you have the doll collector wife put the doll on the shelf and say, "Oh, she looks so perfect." And I'm like, in no universe does anyone look at that doll and think that.
True.
And yes, I know the original Annabelle was a Raggedy Ann doll, but it's neither here nor there.
You don't want to have to deal with that lawsuit.
No
Yeah.
kidding. Yeah, I just worked Paracon, the Missouri Paranormal Convention, with a couple of guys who had a mock Raggedy Ann Annabelle behind them at their booth, and we were all joking about that movie, actually, about how it's like that's the problem with purposely making the movie Annabelle too scary, is that no one is going to buy wanting this doll as a collector's item.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so let's just go ahead and ask you guys this. What is the best death in this movie? Like I said, we have got some crazy, over-the-top, wow, Final Destination wishes they were this creative level of deaths. Which one was the best one? Robert, you first.
I think the one that actually kind of made me laugh the most was one of the throwaway ones that the realtor talks about, because getting a cobra to the neck on a golf course in Maine, and Hal's response being, "There are cobras in Maine," and the realtor can just go, "Well, the one, I guess."
Yeah.
That was great.
Especially because like that one comes on the heels of others that are easier to spot, and I mean that as a compliment. They're still crazy, and it's like, bam, snake in the neck. Which, believe it or not, that's a reference to another Stephen King short story.
Oh, really? I missed that.
I forget the title, but it's his play on the old Twilight Zone episode where somebody's on the slab about to be autopsied, but they're alive. And they realize they're alive when they see them crying. His play on that was somebody gets bit on the neck on a golf course by a snake. And it's all told from the perspective of the guy about to be cut open, of course. And fortunately, able to avoid being autopsied while still alive, technically. But because it's Stephen King, the method by which everyone realizes this guy is not dead, is not something as sentimental as crying. If I could remember the title, I'd give it to you, but I won't spoil the ending there in particular because it's actually quite funny.
You're gonna
Well, and
just
if you
shout
want to
out in
talk
the middle
about,
of the podcast later. I got it.
and if you want to hear more about Snakes to the Neck, you can listen to me and Mark talk about Samuel L. Jackson and Snakes on a Plane that we recorded last Thursday.
Plug,
That's
plug.
true.
Shameless plug.
So that was the funniest for me. Again, I kind of got to go with the aunt because she was just kind of a nice lady from everything we could see. And to just get, again, fish hooks in the face, pull them all out, which she did, disinfect with rubbing alcohol, and then get your face set on fire, trip down a hill, and ram your face through a pointed stick. That's just, again, I hate to say it's just a mean, but boy, is that a mean way to go.
So clever. I would have to say, mine's a tie. I would have to say either the cheerleaders getting just like basically ripped in half by a semi going by as they hang out there, or the bowling ball that takes his head off and embeds in the wall with their mother's name showing. That's the two that stick out the most to me as just interesting. Which though the whole pawn shop owner was good just to set the tone of the movie.
I am gonna have to. This is one that I think actually a lot of people probably missed, but the setup for it was too hilarious to pass up. After the little drummer monkey decides to channel its inner Neil Peart and goes nuts on the drum, we see a plane crash and we see these people suddenly fall through the roof.
the skydiving wedding.
Yeah, because earlier Petey had, I guess, just gone for a walk in town, and he set up a joke about, it's like, hey, I found this place that offers skydiving lessons. That's a great thing to try once. And he actually says, "Oh, look, they do weddings."
Yeah,
and just this couple falls through, and you see the bride in her wedding dress, and the freaking bouquet lands in Bill's hands.
Survived, and he caught the bouquet. Yeah.
Again, it's just like that the setup for that was just too hilarious, because I was just like, yeah, because I was thinking, like, yeah, they do weddings. I'm like, okay, that's one hell of a Chekhov's gun. So I love that. Although I'm with both of you, the rest of those deaths were really, really good. Weird as it is, I think I also loved Chip's death. Just because the way they set it up was great. I love they turn the key and you expect to see the monkey start drumming again, but instead it immediately flash cuts to the funeral and to Chip's portrait above it without actually going into it until later on. It was like that the timing on that was really good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is all in all, this is not like the best movie I've seen. I don't even think it's the best thing Osgood Perkins has done. He's put out a handful of pretty good horror movies to date. This is the first one that deliberately showcases his sense of humor a bit more, at least as far as this goes, and I actually appreciate that. But it's well acted. I'm happy to say something nice about Tatiana Maslany now that I don't know how often I'll get to say that again.
Well, I didn't have you on the She-Hulk review for a reason.
There was almost nothing to talk about with She-Hulk other than your guys' review was fine. It's just that.
Thank you.
Some shows just really a stretch to talk about them, and She-Hulk would have been one of them as a general rule.
I still remember holding up a picture of, oh my God, what's the name of that one Russian actress from Rocky IV?
Bridget.
Nielsen.
Not actually Russian, but.
Well, she was supposed to play She-Hulk, and they did test shots of her in green makeup and her costume in a movie. And I held up my phone showing them, like, just remember, guys, we could have had this.
At the time, it probably would have worked okay. She was married to Stallone at that point, if memory serves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Married or dating? I don't know. This was pre-Flava Flav, obviously.
Yeah. But anyway, she actually does a good job as the mother, being just off-putting enough for to be appropriate for a horror movie, but also warm and loving enough to understand some of the her loss is a genuine loss. Theo getting to play two different characters was kind of a differentiating twins can be difficult if you're an actor without going completely over the top crazy. And Bill's a little crazy, but he only goes over the top in a couple of sequences. This is not a subtle movie when it comes to its theming. So when it talks about, I'm worried about forming relationships with people because bad things happen to the people around me. I'm worried about my baggage. I'm worried about my trauma. And it means I don't form a good relationship with my son. It means I don't have any real friends because they're just going to leave or they're going to die horribly. And the fact that leads you to an existence that is, not worth living is kind of what they explore a little bit here. Or, you have Hal who tries to avoid it incessantly, and then you have Bill who becomes sort of possessed by the notion. He can't not see it everywhere he goes. The contrast and the resolution they get as characters is actually nice when, Hal's like, yeah, I'm sorry our mom died, but she was my mom too, and that really sucks. And Bill doing the, I never thought about it like that. Again, there's a comedic element to it, but it's funny because it's true. We can get so lost in our own grief, we don't think about how the same event affects other people, even those very close to us. And, when Hal at the end says all we can do with our past baggage is own it, we can take responsibility for it and move forward instead of trying to hide from it. And even in the face of, all the randomness of death and all the depravity and the tragedy of existence, if you want to phrase it that way, what we do is what matters. So I'm going to try to form a better relationship with my son. I'm going to go punch Elijah Wood in the teeth, and we're going to see how that goes from there. And it's a really nice sentiment for the thematic elements that the movie tackles.
And I don't know about you two, the smile from the monkey is really creepy because the human looking teeth is really unsettling.
Yeah, credit to the props department. This is it's a fully functioning toy. I'm guessing it's just like a puppet or something, but that it really does have a high creep factor.
Yeah, they did a real good job. I mean, if you're watching us on video, you can see a chunk of it below my left. It's my left, but it's on the right-hand side of the screen. Mm-hmm. It's there right next to Jason and kind of looking at him on occasion.
Yeah, the family resemblance here is uncanny. But the one question I do have is, how does that remind old boy of his father? And one of the funniest lines is when he goes to take them hostage and he looks at his brother, who is basically, you could tell he's got some issues, some antisocial issues. And
very I was thinking PTSD.
Yeah, and he goes, "Do you have any?" He said, "Do you have any ammunition?" He goes, "What caliber?"
Like a good brother, that's the question. Somebody says, "Hey, do you have bullets?" Well, what caliber? Like, what are you looking for, man? Probably.
I have a feeling that is a conversation you would find at the Winfrey household at some point. And Robert being the one asking what caliber.
My brother, in fairness, most of my brothers know enough to go to ask for a specific caliber. They wouldn't just.
Well, I'm just saying
or if they don't recognize what the weapon holds, they'd be like, "Hey, what caliber is this thing again?" And
I could just see you being.
My mother agrees.
I could just see that conversation going on, and you having, you having like a doomsday prepper cache of ammunition and just being
Oh, I wish.
just nonchalantly asking what caliber.
Oh, I just assumed all of Salt Lake City in Utah's got a giant doomsday bunker underneath it.
Salt Lake in particular, not so much. It's Salt Lake's going to hell, but that's a whole other discussion.
They do have the
Yeah,
jazz.
so yeah, there's that. But you did bring up, like, why does the monkey remind him of his dad? I feel like the entry point for this monkey into your psyche is lack of a father figure.
Well, see, I won't say the initial thing that I thought of, the whole he went out to get cigarettes, and we'll just leave it at that and let everybody draw their own conclusions.
No, but like, I kind of, because we don't touch on this, like the monkey is presented as having found their dad. But, I wonder what, his relationship with his father was like. Again, the monkey kind of does kind of come to represent a little bit this sort of multi-generational lack of positive male influence on people. You have the brothers who then grow up first they're without their dad, and then it's their uncle who dies horribly, so they're raised by their aunt. And now Hal's not being a very good dad to his kids, so he's just perpetuating the cycle, which is kind of how that goes. Mm-hmm. So someone else who is sort of bereft of, again, strong paternal figure in his life, like, hey, I kind of need that. Like that's the magnetic pull it has, is people with that kind of an issue. And sadly, in contemporary society, boy, is there a lot of people that would be vulnerable to that particular form of manipulation. Because
I think it's more or less a power manipulation, giving those who don't have that parental figure like an unwielding power that they can impact things and harm those who has harmed them throughout life.
And of course, because this is the way it goes, it never works the way you want it to. Vengeance never works the way you want it to. And the monkey just gives you nothing but collateral damage and then laughs at you the whole time while you turn the key again. Because this time, promise you, this time it'll be the guy you want, right? Well, each time it just takes another little piece of your soul to wind that thing up and send some poor fool screaming into the afterlife.
I mostly just was confused why Hal thought Ricky was a freaking cop. I mean, I know he was wearing the uniform, but it's like, dude, he's got bangs so long. He looks like my old Cocker Spaniel, okay? In what universe did you think?
That just has to be comedy for the sake of comedy.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only way I could, because when the cops do a singular police officer, first of all, bit of a rarity, not impossible, but rare, would not announce himself as it's the mother effing cops open the door while wearing an ill-fitting uniform.
Yeah. And of course, the freaking idiot sitting in the backseat scratching his head with the gun with his finger on the trigger.
The lack of proper firearm safety in this movie is disturbing.
I'm surprised you didn't go ahead and start calling that out as we was doing the plot synopsis, Robert, being like, it was really hard to watch because of the mishandling of firearms.
It is, but because it's a comedy, I'll give it a little bit more grace. You want to know, this is a bit of a tangent, but sadly, a movie I really enjoy has a moment that is just so stupid with its firearm use that I can't unsee it. During the big border shootout in Sicario, there's a couple of sequences where you see a guy holding his rifle out of the window, and the bolt is open, which is not how you can use the weapon. It's because that's what the armorer gave him. The armorer went through, okay, no, we're either only loaded with blanks or we're not loaded at all, and just has to look loaded because safety. Put it in, handed it to the guy in the car, and then the armorer didn't close the port. and the actor doesn't know what they're doing with it. So of course he didn't reach over and close it. And so there's this, in theory, very well trained special operator for the United States military pointing a useless firearm at someone because the bolt's wide open, and just it hurts me. No, this idiot messing around improperly with the revolver, like, yeah, you knew it was coming because I was willing to go with it. Didn't honestly the worst handling. There's only one issue, only one television show actually recently where the firearm safety and lack thereof, distinct lack thereof, actually kind of makes my skin crawl and gets up and bothers me, is the Simpsons episode where Homer gets a gun. Because he is wildly, it's the Cartridge Family is the title. He is wildly irresponsible with that thing, and it genuinely bothers me if I happen to come across that episode. Like, no.
Why do you think Marge was so desperate to get him to get rid of the gun? It's not so much Marge doesn't like guns, it's that Marge knows who her husband is.
Yeah, and his handling of that is so bad. It actually bothered me to the point where the last time I watched it, I had to pause and like walk away for a minute, just like, let it go. It's a cartoon. It's just a cartoon. You've seen this episode before. But, close your eyes and then open them and you'll see something cool. And it's him literally pointing the gun at Marge. Like, buddy, I kind of want to break your arms for this.
Well, like I said, that's the point of the episode. It's not anti-gun, it's anti-poor gun safety.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons I appreciate that episode, because it's actually a moderately nuanced take, and The Simpsons actually, when they would do that, again, they had the good sense to spray the block. Like, here's both sides. You're kind of stupid both ways. Because we are. And in this one, again, guy with, let me just scratch this thing.
Oh, this cap is so itchy.
Oh, buddy.
I honestly thought he was just going to shoot himself.
More serious movie, I would have been skin crawling, teeth on edge.
Yeah, no, I thought he was either going to shoot himself in the head. Well, actually, I did think he was going to shoot himself in the head. And then I figured the wasps were actually going to get in through the air conditioning, because anyone who has driven for a while has probably heard a story or two about a bee or something getting in through the air conditioning of a moving car, and then the driver having the mother of all panic attacks instead of simply pulling over to the side of the road, opening the windows, or getting out of the car if you're allergic.
Yeah. My thought on the wasp was again, because we're slightly cartoony with this, they were going to get out and be walking. It was going to fall on the guy's head. We were going to get that old chestnut.
I could have accepted that.
Would have been like that one Animaniacs cartoon with Slappy Squirrel.
Yeah,
I don't like bees, but who does? Are you kidding? Ow, ow! Yeah, God, I can't believe I have that scene stuck in my head now. I know that scene by heart.
Yeah, that's an old chestnut from all kinds of animated cartoons. It's the nest just thunk over the head. I thought we were gonna get a play on that, and
I would have liked that a lot better.
Again, I was fine with what they did, but that was where my head went initially, because Bugs has done that to Elmer Fudd like countless times.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure we could spend the next hour just looking up cartoons where a cartoon character got a bee's nest.
A bee nest.
On their head. A hive, a bee's hive. That was probably the
what would have been funny if it would have done that and he just ran over with a board and just started beating it. that would have been even better.
And then all of a sudden, Osgood Perkins turns into Tex Avery.
Well, it's one of my favorite. Again, you couldn't use this line because it's from a straight comedy, but there's a line from Ernest Rides Again, and I have a deep affection for the Ernest franchise.
Oh yeah,
and
rest in peace, Jim Varney. You rocked.
We missed a back half of his career that would have opened eyes, because he was a gifted Shakespearean actor as well.
Oh, he was.
But there's a line he says in that where the Ernest character says in that, I might have been in trouble in that scene if I wasn't just this close to being a cartoon character. And, it's in the Ernest voice. And I kind of had a moment or two with Hal throughout the course of this movie where, like, you're this close to being a cartoon character. And again, it's not a line you could use in this movie because it's too close to that. That's too comedic for this, where there's definitely comedy and a sense of humor to this movie. But that would have been a bit too far. But somewhere in my head, it kind of went, you're this close to being a cartoon character, aren't you? Just constantly. I mean, he doesn't quite get splattered with as much gore as other, as a Sam Raimi victim, but
Pretty close.
Close.
Pretty close. He has a
Yeah,
freaking unattached leg fly at him from a woman who has now turned the pool into her own soup.
It was. He also wasn't quite Jack Quaid in The Boys, who gets it every episode.
Go check out our review of Companion to hear us talk about Jack Quaid's luck with film roles.
And we will be talking more about that in a couple of weeks with Novocaine.
Yes, I can't wait for that.
Yeah, sadly, that's going to be you guys. I've kind of got a full workload in March, so I told Mark, as much as I want to review that in Mickey 17, I'm sitting out so I can focus a little bit more on Honeysuckle Rose. I will be back, tied up against my will, to review Snow White.
If you can bail on that bail, save yourself.
Mark asked me to be on that. We are going to have fun railing against that thing with a board with a nail through it.
If it's only one nail, we'll be lucky.
I was going to say, I just want you to imagine your favorite deaths in this movie and then imagine it against Rachel Zegler and Snow White.
Oh, then the aunt's death is going to take longer. Like I am unhealthily vindictive against that role and Rachel Zegler in particular. Like, she's not running down into the sign. She's running all the way to the road where she gets hit by a car, crippled, crawls a little bit along the road, hit by another car. She pulls herself up, knocked into the air, and then impales herself on the sign. Like, I'm going full Looney Tunes on that one. If I get
Looney Tunes, nothing. That's just evil, and I love you for it. This is why the three of us need to do these horror reviews more often. This is the Unholy Trinity shit I missed.
This is I would rather her just get the Gage treatment from Pet Sematary and why she's on fire.
Does the driver have to be listening to the Ramones?
I don't care what. No, he's got to be listening to either like Friday or Call Me Maybe.
No. Just listening to the classic Snow White soundtrack. I wanted to be listening to the classic Hi Ho as he runs.
Yeah, that would work. That would work.
No.
Hi Ho, Hi Ho, smack.
It switches to that. You get the big, like the Hi Ho with the held note when the trailer he's pulling runs her over. He's listening to something else.
We're a bunch of.
Or better yet,
I'm a terrible person.
She's singing Hi Ho as she gets hit and just obliterated to make the sleeping bag from this movie look like a gentle death.
Yeah, you know what? God. Just throw her into
we want Rachel Zegler and Snow White to look like a fallen cherry pie.
I could live with that.
Yeah.
Quit making me root for your bad villains, Disney. I'll happily root for your good ones, but you haven't made a good one in a long time. So
you had a chance with Wish and you blew it.
Yeah, boy, did you. That's been a good Disney villain since Dr. Falsier and Princess and the Frog.
You mean Facilier?
Facilier, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. He was awesome.
Trying to think if there's
although I give a half credit to Tamatoa in Moana. who is not the full antagonist of that movie, but I think Shiny is a really underrated good Disney villain
Shiny
song.
is a good villain song.
So it's like, because he gives us a good villain song, he gets a point, even though he's not the main antagonist.
Yeah, but he's also a crab.
Moving back to our actual topic of discussion.
Just so you know, the easiest way to get rid of crabs is rubbing alcohol and sand. They get drunk and throw rocks at each other. Moving on.
Okay.
Just remember, after the rubbing alcohol, stay away from the pilot light.
And definitely. Yeah. So anything else
and
we want?
signs.
Okay. So last question here. Let me throw this before we move on to the next segment.
Well, I was just gonna say, I know that. Okay, I was okay with Long Legs, but this is actually. I know you said this isn't your favorite Osgood Perkins film, but this may be my favorite. But I know that. What's the line? I have a sense of humor so dark that Anish Kapoor tried to trademark it. Mm-hmm. So this movie is so twistedly absurd. It's very much so my cup of tea. I came home. My husband didn't go see this with me. And he was like, so how's the movie? And I didn't tell him about the whole plot, but I told him about the aunt's death. Mm. And even that, he's just staring at me like, I think I need to see this when it comes on streaming. So, although, frankly, I hate to say it, I'm going to go with what Sean Baker said at the Oscars last night. Guys, we need to go see more movies in actual theaters. People need to know that it's worth it to make movies like this.
Hey, I do my part, partially for this show. But let me ask the question then out of just general curiosity, because I'm a little bit more partial to Long Legs, especially the opening sequence, which is just a great short horror movie by itself. If you just cut it off when the title card drops.
The scene with it cut off, you're not seeing Nicolas Cage's
until
face.
He drops at the very end. Yeah. But that's a lot more straight, horror thriller. I enjoyed the Blackcoat's Daughter a fair bit, but that's also Perkins has an interesting thing where he's constantly sort of talking about our relationship with evil, but he never shies away from letting like supernatural evil be real. So there is actually the power that you get from aligning with Satan and Long Legs. And here you do have, the monkey as this devilish force. So I'm just kind of curious for you guys. What do you want to see him do next? Because he had a quick turnaround from Long Legs to this, and he seems to be interested in just, being fairly active. So is there anything in particular you'd like to see him do?
You guys didn't stay to the end of the credits, did you?
I did not, no.
There was a teaser. There's a teaser for his next movie. It's called Keeper.
Okay.
I have no idea what it's about because it's Osgood Perkins it's Osgood Perkins, and the man never reveals anything in his teaser trailers. All you see is cuts of it's like 3 or 4 women in various stages, just like looking at something, looking at someone, and it starts getting really freaky with them. Like they will start looking more and more scared and more uncomfortable. So I don't know the plot. That's all I saw. And it just said, it's like Keeper from Osgood Perkins soon. It didn't give a date, didn't say coming in year or whatever. It just said soon.
I'm down. Perkins is a very good horror director, and I'm happy to have more of those floating around. So good on him. Curious to see what he does with that.
Say we can't have Mike Flanagan carrying everything.
Yeah, and especially since his batting average is pretty clearly 500.
Okay,
from what I've heard, he's a
premise.
Oh, you found it. Awesome.
Malcolm and Liz is set on a romantic anniversary retreat to a remote cabin. When Malcolm unexpectedly leaves for the city, Liz is left alone, only to be confronted by a sinister presence within the cabin. Releases October 3rd.
Well, we may have our film for our annual Halloween review then.
I will definitely be interested in that. Again, I think he does interesting stuff, and he's not afraid to experiment. So I'm down for checking out what Perkins does next.
Yeah, I could review that. If we reviewed that on a Monday, I could review that and then As soon as we get done, I would leave for Florida. So yeah, we could do that on the October 6th if you guys want.
I'll
Awesome.
double check the schedule. We'll figure that out.
Yeah. We'll tell Mark, and then Mark will laugh at us for trying to schedule something in October.
He might.
But no, what I was about to say is I heard Mike Flanagan's actually his next miniseries. I heard he's doing a new adaptation of Carrie.
That's another one that, you know what, every generation can do a Carrie because the sort of the theme that it plays with is just timeless, but it's a timeless theme, but the execution is actually kind of generational because the specifics never look the same from one group of high school students to the next.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish him well with that. I think he's on a bad one though. So I think the last thing of his that came out was good. So
Yeah, Fall of the House of Usher was terrific.
yeah, so he's probably going to fall at least somewhat on his face with this one because that's the Flanagan pattern at this point.
So before I take off, I want to pitch this as a deep cut of a movie I would like to see remade
All right.
and updated. I want to see the Wraith. You guys probably have never seen it. It's an old 80s. It's basically a futuristic Christine.
Okay.
That
Okay.
is God, it basically takes this nerd and makes him like speed racer that murders people.
Well, I mean, again, kind of our other usual thing here for a Stephen King adaptation is to do the, what Stephen King thing do you want to see adapted that hasn't? Well, let me limit it this time. That hasn't been adapted yet.
Didn't we
Anything
talk about this when we discussed
did.
Salem's Lot?
A little bit, yeah. When Dorian was here, we talked a little bit about that. But I tend to bring the question back up, and it's not like he's limited in output to where we can't answer it differently the next time. If something strikes your fancy.
Well, guys, it's been great getting the three of us back together to cover a horror movie. If there's anything that you guys see that we can throw on any upcoming horror movies that you guys want to review, we can get together again. I'd be more than happy to do that.
Well, there were quite a few trailers for this for some really interesting. Did you guys see the trailer for the movie Together?
Yes.
That looks haunting.
I don't remember if I've seen it or not.
I'll send you the trailer if they didn't play before your showing. But yeah, that looks, if that's going the way I think it's going, that looks like some straight up body horror.
Yeah.
And that could be good.
Definitely an element of it there.
But it's been real. It's been fun, but it's always real fun getting to review a movie with you guys. So, like I said, if anything comes across, definitely let me know, and we'll get the band back together and do another review of horror movies.
Sounds perfect, man. Wish you well. Thanks for jumping in.
All right,
always
see you guys
a pleasure,
later.
Jason.
All right, I'm trying to remember what I said during the Salem's Lot, because I had an answer for what I wanted to see.
I remember Dorian and I got on a side tangent about how you could actually do Survivor Type as a series of TikTok releases.
Oh yeah. Let's see here.
That's kind of been in my head for a while since then. Like, could you really do that? Like, yeah, you actually could. It's a fairly short story, but
I think I said I wanted a good Children of the Corn because every remake of that has sucked.
We could do with the new Children of the Corn.
I know we're getting a new Running Man, which would be good because Edgar Wright's helming that, and I trust him complicitly with that.
I'm still a little torn on that one. Like, I'm mostly interested because it's Edgar Wright, but Running Man is also, it's a weird one. I can't say I'd kill for it, but I think we might have missed the boat for a genuinely good Long Walk adaptation because it's pseudo YA, like dystopian future.
Mm-hmm.
That trend in film seems to be on the decline, but there was a period of time when that could have been an interesting antidote to and I don't mean this unkindly, but the trend of, I'm a, slightly internally troubled teenage girl going to take down the. There were a lot of those, and doing the slight subversion of that with the Long Walk. There was a time that would have been, I think, a welcome addition to the cinematic landscape. We might be past that moment in time, though.
Well, I do have another idea. Think back to when we watched Cabinet of Curiosities.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that as the new Creep Show.
I could do that.
Bunch of different directors, one episode each. Give them a Stephen King short story, because Lord knows the man wrote more short stories than feature-length books.
Oh yeah, he's got a lot of them, and some of them are interesting to say the least.
Obviously, but yeah, how good would that be? I mean, we've talked before about how we see so many films that try. I mean, and again, The Monkey was taken from a short story, but I think Osgood Perkins did a really good job actually stretching it to feature length and taking new stuff with it.
There's only a few places when you feel the stretch. They exist. It needs to be said that they exist, but doing a couple of seasons of 6 to 8 episodes each, where the goal is take a Stephen King short story and turn it into an episode or so. Like, you could have some fun with that. You could actually do the Lawnmower Man justice instead of the abomination that we got that was in name only.
That was so surreal. And I remember what made that so bizarre was that even though Stephen King took his name off of it, and it pretty much is in name only, they still filled it with so many Stephen King stereotypes that I know a lot of people had they were like, oh yeah, this is a Stephen King story. It's like, no, it's not. But it's got all of this. No, yeah, I know it has all of that, but it's not.
It's really not.
Yeah, but it's so weird. Let's face it, though, that thing is a time capsule of the 90s, though.
How we thought uploading your consciousness into the internet would go back in...
How we thought virtual reality would go.
Oy.
Yeah.
Somehow it still doesn't look that much better.
We had to get rid of our Oculus because every time I wore it, I couldn't stand still. I kept walking into walls. I don't know why. I just couldn't stand still. I kept getting turned around, dizzy, and walking into the damn bookcase.
That'll happen. All right. Well, with that, so again, if you have the opportunity to see The Monkey, if you got a dark or wicked sense of humor, this is going to be right up your alley. Go give it a look. And if not, we're going to kind of do, I think we're going to do a combination of money and a little bit of Oscar review for this segment, or
sure, we're going
to save the Oscars for when Mark's here.
We can talk the Oscars. I'll tell you what, why don't I let me get the money started. And while we talk about that, I will message Mark and make sure he's not going to kill me if he wanted to talk about this next week on when you guys review Mickey 17.
I've become more concerned about that movie the more trailers I've seen for it, but only because I think the movie will be good. Let me start there. But I've started to think that Bong Joon-ho is a one-trick pony, and the one trick might be pretty good, but it's kind of only the one trick.
Possibly. I'm still intrigued. The early reviews have been really good.
Oh, I'm sure. He's a very, very competent filmmaker, if nothing else. But, is there a through line between Snowpiercer, Parasite, and Mickey 17? Yes, there is, and boy, is it obvious. And it's a good trick, but if that's the only trick you got, then that is going to wear out.
I'm mostly just intrigued to see Robert Pattinson in this. That man has really started to, he's been impressing me. This is an actor who everyone thought for the longest time was going to get pigeonholed from starring in the Twilight series, and he has gone to show us that he is a phenomenal actor, and I think he has been trying to pick roles that prove it's like, no, I'm not just the tortured bad boy who's so good looking kind of a thing that we got with Edward Cullen. He does very different roles. Go see The Lighthouse, know. Hell, I loved him in Tenet. I know that movie is just very weird and probably not one of Christopher Nolan's best work, but I enjoyed it and I loved him in it.
I very much enjoyed Tenet, so but it's also a very me kind of movie. So I acknowledge that.
My family was trying to get me to explain it, and it was like, okay, this is normally not the kind of thing I say at all. Listen to my reviews of Avatar for this, but just turn your brains off and enjoy the awesome. I was like, I'm not going to try to understand this. I'm just going to watch someone do forward and then backward fighting and just marvel at how freaking cool it is. End of story.
There's a little bit of that, yeah. So hit the soundbite and let's talk about the money for a little bit, if nothing else.
You got it.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
All right. Is that big enough you can read it?
I can.
Okay. So now The Monkey actually came out not this past weekend, but the weekend before that. But we're going to look at this most recent weekend. Captain America Brave New World is still holding on to number one. I think we agree that's probably going to be there for a while.
A little bit. Well, hang on. Let me do the monkey thing real fast. No, not the substance. Which, unfortunately to me, more robbed. Robbed, I say.
We riot. We riot at dawn.
There's no justice for horror actresses in the award season. Just none. Okay, so The Monkey has a budget of 10 to 11 million, somewhere in that vicinity. Current box office take is 31.3, as mentioned. It came out last week, but last week we did our Oscar preview instead of the new releases, so there we are. It was released alongside The Unbreakable Boy, and it ultimately had a estimated earning of 17 million and change for its opening weekend.
Sounds about right.
Debuted 14 million, finishing second behind Captain America Brave New World.
Which again is probably going to hold on to that number one spot for a while, at least until either everyone gets tired of it or another blockbuster does come through to kick it off its perch.
Yeah, so that's where
if that blockbuster is Snow White, I will have lost all faith in humanity.
Something will beat it before then. Brave New World is falling too fast for it to maintain this spot for too much longer. So, number one movie of the weekend was Captain America Brave New World for the third or fourth week in a row. Unfortunately for it, again, its production budget is enormous, and its fall has been precipitous. It had a good opening weekend and then a 69% drop.
I thought it was it was like 70 or 75 because Mark predicted that.
Yeah, Mark said 70. Yeah, it was in the 70s.
Yeah, because Mark and I had a little joke because he commented on that, and I, in my still waking up delirium, wrote, "Good for you, have a cookie." And he thought I was being a sarcastic bitch. I'm like, no, I'm just not awake. There is a difference.
So it's had some pretty serious drops. Again, this last week, it took in 14 million, but that's another 50% drop from last week, give or take. So that's, again, pretty serious. Debuting at number 2 was Last Breath, the thriller starring Woody Harrelson, Simu Liu, and a few others about based on the true story. The Monkey fell from 2 to 3 with a 54% drop, which is actually a decent hold for a movie with a solid enough opening that this thing had, and for a smaller horror movie. So thumbs up for that.
It is an independent film from Neon. It's not like this was a massive, like, mega. It had very, very limited advertising to boot.
Yeah, so a budget of 10 million, figure another, 3-ish for advertising.
And unfortunately, it's kind of hard for films like this to do advertising because, I mean, you have your red band trailers, but they really couldn't show a lot in the YouTube green trailers and advertising for this. So just they had to play to their strength that just go see the red band trailers. You know, that's all we can do. Go watch it. Go watch Theo James say "what the fuck" 1,000 times.
Which he did a lot.
Yeah.
Paddington in Peru fell from 3 to 4. Only a 30% drop, and that probably going to wind up making money, but doesn't seem to be as beloved as the other entries into the Paddington franchise.
It's too bad. The Paddington movies are... I always hate that the Paddington movies have suffered from really bad advertising that paints them as very kiddish. And it's like, these are actually insanely good movies. They really need a better advertiser.
Dogman fell from 4 to 5. Mufasa, the Lion King, God help us, rose from 8 to 6.
Why? It's already on streaming.
I
I don't get why it's gone up if it's on. I legit cannot figure out the math on that one.
I can't either, but well, here we are. Hard Eyes fell from 6 to 7. The Unbreakable Boy fell from 9 to rose actually from 9 to 8. So I think it got a little bit wider of its release, but open soft and is not that melodrama is struggling to find an audience. The American release of Mobile Suit Gundam,
Good luck pronouncing that.
GQ, it's GQ, what, 5 U's X, the beginning?
1, 2, 3, 4, 6.
6 U's, okay.
So GQX.
Yeah. And One of Them Days held strong at number 10. Fair enough.
With Riff Raff and My Dead Friend Zoe also opening. I've heard really good things about My Dead Friend Zoe. Another reviewer friend of mine saw it. She raved about it.
Okay, we're also dealing with a lot of the Oscar bumps. So A Complete Unknown rose a spot.
Brutalist went from 21 to 18.
Brutalist got a big bump up. Yeah, and I should have stuck with my guns on Adrian Brody getting that Oscar. I knew it, and I let Mark kind of talk me out of it. So Brutalist got a big bump. I'm Still Here got a big bump for a wider release here in more places.
It's not a wide enough bump for us to freaking catch it.
Anora, because it won a bunch of the Oscars, got a big bump because this was the best picture, because we live in a bubble where the downtrodden are aliens and we get to point and laugh at them like they're zoo animals. Because
You're just mad because I picked it and you picked the substance.
I stand by my pick because that was an optimistic pick on my part. If I was being intelligent, there's only 3, I think, of the picks I got wrong that I, if I was being more logical, would have got right. I would have got Brody because I picked Ray Fiennes more optimistically, but I should have got that one right. I probably should have got Flo, but I went with Wallace and Gromit mostly to be different because I think you picked Flo and Mark picked Wild Robot. So I said, I'll pick the third ones and just one of us will be right.
Yeah, Mark was very dedicated to the Wild Robot. I went with Flo since it won the Golden Globe, and I figured it had a better chance.
And look, man, the 5 animated nominees for Best Picture were all better than like 6 or 7 of the live action Best Picture movies this year. It was not the best year, if we're being honest.
Yeah. In fact,
anyway,
here,
anything
do you
else
want to
debut? So again, Anora got a big bump.
Superboys of
Substance got a bump. So we have Superboys of Malagon.
Yeah. Yeah. Substance got a bump. Nickel Boys got a bump.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer got re-released.
Shrug.
Conclave got a bump.
Yeah. The Accidental Getaway Driver, Unholy Song, Rats, and anything else anything else new this week?
Doesn't look like it. Nope.
I think that was the weekend that was. So worldwide.
Okay, hang on. Let me get that. Too many tabs open. I'm losing track of where the hell I am. I don't know how Mark does this so fluidly.
Lots of practice.
Yeah, okay. Number
so
1.
Worldwide, the year of our Lord 2025. On top of the world still, Captain America Brave New World, $341 million, which is well short of what it's going to wind up needing to be seriously profitable. Even if you believe the propaganda budget of $180 million, we're barely profitable at this point. Actually, hang on. So for the sake of argument,
Here
I'm
we
not going to
go.
get on my soapbox, but just for the sake of argument, if Disney is being honest and 180 is not propaganda but reality, it's propaganda for the record. But if you then factor in delays and advertising, this thing still needs at least $500 million to be profitable on a $180 million budget. Just factoring in known issues of advertising and delays. So even if they're not lying about it, this is still going to wind up losing money, which is predictable if unfortunate. Dogman at number 2, 113 million. Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy at 89 million. Pantera, Den of Thieves Pantera rather, 56 million. One of Them Days, Flight Whisk, Wizard of Oz, Companion, Wolfman, Monkey cracks the top 10 at $31 million. It will not be there long, is my hunch, but good for it anyway.
For the record, that wasn't the Wizard of Oz. That's the Wizard of Emerald City.
Wizard of Emerald City.
Yeah,
yes, my apologies.
a foreign knockoff. So we're gonna go just shrug our shoulders.
It's the Wizard of Oz from Temu, is what we're just gonna go with.
Yeah, that works.
So the Monkey will almost certainly pass Wolfman next week. Decent shot. It winds up passing Companion as well.
You think it's gonna? How long? I was gonna say that. Okay, so the next 3 releases. Next we've got Mickey 17. Week after that is Novocaine, and the week after that is Snow White. I think Mickey 17 might have a chance at cracking the top 10 if I'm being completely optimistic, but again, it's like, how long do you think the Monkey will stay in the top 10? Do you think it'll stay in there until Snow White gets there, or
probably around then? Well, again, I think it's going to pass. I think it's going to wind up at number 8 in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
So the question is, are 2 other movies going to show up that do better than it? That will do better than, call it $35 million by that point. And possible, but I don't know. Look, we're excited for Novocaine because we're weird, but I don't know how much penetration
Because we love watching Jack Quaid suffer, obviously.
Yeah. Again, I'm very much willing to take the ride on Novocaine, but I don't know how much like serious penetration it's going to get worldwide. Mickey 17 has an outside shot at making the top 10, so I imagine the Monkey again. It's gonna get past Wolfman and Companion at a bare minimum, is my thought. I don't think it quite gets to 40 million though, so it'll be there for a couple of weeks, but I don't expect it to hang out there long term. And there are still a handful of heavier hitters to come later in the year. So look, the Monkey is profitable at this point in time. We give that a big thumbs up. And appropriately budgeted horror movies have a really good track record of just churning out a profit and keeping your production studios afloat. So that's how they go.
All right. Do you want to go ahead and discuss the Oscars from last night? We can go over our predictions.
Yeah, we can do that quickly if we're all inclined.
Yeah, here I actually got the let's see here from CBSnews.com. That was just the first one that came up on the search engine. Okay, so yeah, Best Picture was Anora. I predicted that one to win.
You
Mark
did.
predicted The Brutalist.
I've got our prediction list up here, so I can.
Oh, you got the. Okay, good. I was like, I didn't know if I needed to pull that up or not.
No, I've got it. Yeah, I went Substance because I was being optimistic. I would have got Anora. Would not have been my next pick for that, but I didn't care much for Anora, so there was that. Then yeah, Mickey Madison winning for Anora. It was a 2-horse race between her and Demi Moore, if we're being honest. And I just would have given it to Demi Moore, but again, there is no justice for horror performances at the Oscars, or horror movies for that matter, as a general rule of thumb. And
yeah, I think the only award The Substance took was Best Makeup, which I actually did not predict. I predicted it. You guys predicted The Substance. I said Wicked. Now, I didn't pick Wicked because I thought the makeup was better. I picked Wicked because, again, no justice for horror movies.
Yeah.
I thought there was no way in hell the Academy was going to give that award to The Substance. I was like, oh, please, they'll give it to Wicked.
Yeah,
so that's why I predicted that one.
We all predicted Demi Moore to win Best Actress. One of us should have hedged with Mickey Madison, but we didn't.
Best Actor, Adrian Brody.
Okay, as far as Best Actor goes, you predicted that. That was my original prediction, but I let Mark kind of talk me into Ralph Fiennes because I like Ralph Fiennes more than I like Adrian Brody. But
no, that's fair. I love Ralph Fiennes too. The Menu is still one of my all-time favorite movies now.
Yeah, and again, look at that list of best actors. One, I said we talked about it when we previewed this whole thing, that Paul Giamatti's performance from The Holdovers would have won this year walking away. I stand by
Easily.
that.
I agree.
but there's not really some bad performances there. That was Giamatti just had such a wonderful thing. So best supporting actor, I don't think any of us got that right.
No, I think all three of us went with Guy
We all
Pearce.
went with Guy Pearce, yeah.
I did
And
hedge my vote also with Edward Norton
Yeah.
because I said that again, it's like I would have liked him to win, but I figured, and that's the thing with a lot of these votes is like I didn't pick who I wanted to see win. I hedged my money on who I figured the Academy was going to go with,
Yeah.
and that did pay off.
So Kieran Culkin gets to have another child with his wife, and good for them.
2 more kids. That accepted speech was freaking adorable. Because I saw his Emmy Award speech where he actually said, my wife said we can have a 3rd kid. So the fact that he called her out on that was just so freaking awesome. I love it.
People photoshopping his Oscar onto him as the kid who can't control his bladder in the first Home Alone. That's sitting at the pizza table has been kind of a joy. Best
So many
supporting
people
actress.
forget that was his first movie with his freaking brother, cousin.
I think they're
I can't
brothers.
remember.
I can't remember
Macaulay
either, but-
Culkin's his brother.
So best supporting actress went to Zoe Saldana, which Alexis
I called.
predicted. I was between her and Felicity Jones, and again, I kind of let Mark talk me into Felicity Jones.
Are you just going to blame Mark for all of your?
No,
Because you can. I have no problem with it.
no, I'm not going to blame him for all of that. Again, just kind of let him kind of talk me into it a little bit. Best director went to Sean Baker for Honora.
You guys
which-
picked Corbet, I believe.
Yeah, we all went. We kind of thought The Brutalist would do better on the creative side than it did,
Mm-hmm.
but it didn't. And apparently the anti-AI crowd, or the sheer number of Academy voters who didn't actually watch The Brutalist, which is a shockingly high number of them.
Every year it comes out how many members of the Academy didn't actually see at least half the nominations, especially when it comes to the animated features.
And
You
the
know,
number, there were a few voters who said, "Yeah, I did not vote for Ray Fiennes as Best Actor because he won for Schindler's List." At which point you had to smack them and go, "No, he didn't. You can Google this."
Sometimes I honestly think we would do better as members of the Academy than half the people who
We
actually
would.
get paid for this. It's like, yeah, at least we actually watch these movies.
We bent over backwards to watch all of these stupid things. You'd think those people who, if you're a member of the Academy, they hold screenings for you. All you have to do is go.
Mhm.
But no, that's asking too much, apparently. Best
Yeah,
cinematography.
we actually pay for those movies.
So best cinematography did go to The Brutalist. Mark and I predicted that one.
That was one of the ones I missed because I wanted Nosferatu to get that one.
That would have been my second choice personally. Best animated feature went to Flow. Again, Mark, we all picked a different one for that just because you couldn't go wrong with it, basically, as long as you didn't pick
Mhm.
Inside Out 2.
Yeah, no kidding.
Best animated short, we didn't pick for because
We haven't seen
didn't.
any of them yet.
Best costume design went to Wicked, and I think we all predicted that one. No, I went Nosferatu because I'm an idiot. But
I thought you went with Conclave at first because I remember you talking about
I'd-
getting the robes right.
that would have been my personal ranked choice on this would be Nosferatu, Conclave, Wicked, A Complete Unknown, and Gladiator 2. But
Gotcha.
Best original screenplay went to Honora, which, hang on.
I know why that's one I picked.
Best original screenplay, we all went Honora on that
Mhm.
one. Best adapted screenplay went to Conclave, which you and I both got. Mark went with A Complete Unknown.
Oh, I had been calling for Conclave as soon as I saw it. I did not know Conclave was an adaptation when I first saw it. So I thought it was an original, and the minute I turned it off, I said, this thing needs to win Best Original Screenplay. And then I was like, oh, it's adapted. Okay, it needs to win Best Adapted Screenplay. Done.
Again, best makeup and hairstyling went to The Substance, which Mark and I predicted.
That's one of the ones I got wrong.
Best film editing went to Honora, which you two predicted. I picked The Brutalist just to be different. Seriously, that was my logic there.
This is what being a contrarian gets you.
It's true. Best production design. Where is that? Costuming, makeup, best production design. I went Nosferatu. Again, it went to Wicked. Again, I really wanted Nosferatu to get something, and I tried to go with a few of the ones that I thought it might have deserved, but best original song went to El Mal from Amelia Perez, which I got right.
Yeah.
No, wait, did I?
Yeah, you did, because I remember you saying that was the only song from the movie you actually liked.
That's true. I have this listed incorrectly. Why do I have that listed incorrectly on my list?
Mm.
I might have swapped because you picked the one from Elton John.
Yes, I did.
Why does mine say Like a Bird?
I don't know, because you haven't seen Sing Sing yet.
Yeah, I don't know why that is listed improperly. That's weird. Okay, so yeah, Mark and I got that one right. Best documentary we didn't pick, or best documentary because we didn't see them. Best sound.
I think we all picked Dune Part 2.
Hang on. Best VFX, best sound. Yeah, we all picked Dune 2 on that one.
Mhm.
So we all got that one right. Best visual effects. You went with Wicked. The rest of Mark and I went with Dune 2.
Again, I was playing to what I figured the Academy would go with.
Yeah. Best live action short went to I'm Not a Robot. We did not pick for that. Best international feature. We all went I'm Still Here. No, actually, I went Flow because
Contrarian.
I kind of thought it wouldn't win best animated movie, but I thought it would win something.
Okay.
So I picked it there because I didn't pick it as best animated. If I'd picked it as best animated, I would have gone with you guys and gone with I'm Still Here. But
I gotcha.
that's just me. Best original score went to The Brutalist, which you predicted. Mark went with Wicked. I went with Conclave. And yeah, that's how that goes.
And all we got other than that was a nice tribute to Quincy Jones, Gene Hackman, and a very misplaced James Bond tribute. That was weird.
We excluded Tony Todd from our in memoriam section.
I know they always miss a ton, and it is so unfair.
Look, they also missed Bernard Shaw, and I'm sorry if you exclude Tony Todd, the God of Horror, and Bernard Shaw, who is in both Titanic and the Lord of the Rings franchise. I think you have missed the boat.
No argument. Again, it's like I agree totally, but I have also acquiesced that the Academy never. Okay, now for the record, they can't do the whole list, and in fact, there's a link after they get done, they say go to so and so to see even more. They can't do the full list because that would be equal to the entire length of the Oscars running time.
I'd rather watch a 2-hour in memoriam tribute than watch the Oscars. Just throwing that out there.
Fair enough. But they always have to cut a decent amount, and unfortunately, there's always going to be someone really important. There was a lot of people throwing fits that they included Gene Hackman, but not Michelle Trachtenberg, who died the day before.
I'm more sympathetic to that just because while her death is tragic, she is literally my age.
Mm-hmm.
She also wasn't a big star. So I can kind of understand if you have to make some cuts. The girl best known for being on television.
And yeah, admittedly, I do think of her more as a TV star.
Because she was, she did, what was her show on Nickelodeon that she was on?
Okay, there were 2 shows she was known for. One was she was on The Adventures of Pete and Pete.
That's it.
And she was Buffy's little sister on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Those were her 2 biggest claims to fame.
Yeah, because I couldn't remember which Nickelodeon show it was. And yeah, I thought it was Pete and Pete, but I couldn't remember specifically. And yes, it was. And then, yeah, she shows up in Buffy in season 5. Well, technically the end of season 4, but season 4 sucks, so we don't talk about it all that much.
See, I'm mostly not. While I know those two shows, when I think of Michelle Trachtenberg, I actually think of Harriet the Spy, which was Nickelodeon's
Yep.
first feature film.
Lot
she
of
was the star of
that's
that.
the
So,
big one for that was one for a lot of people.
mhm.
But yeah, she never really like had a big movie career, so I can understand if you have to make some cuts, it's there. But tragic passing of someone not even 40 always sucks.
Very much so. But yeah, they always screw up and leave off a handful of pretty important names.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's also a case of scrambling because they're
they had to scramble to get Gene Hackman in there. Like
every year, there's always at least 1 or 2 deaths that happen like within 48 hours of the Oscars. And even though the in memoriam is supposed to be those who died the year prior, we got to get that person in there. So they are just scrambling to re-edit to include that tribute.
But yeah, so that was the Oscars for this year. I think we all did okay. We'll do it again next year because this is just a thing we're going to be doing going forward, I think. So tune in for more of that next time around if you're so inclined.
Well, it's nice to actually talk about movies that are trending on Twitter for once.
Come on, we totally talked about Captain America when it was trending.
I know. No, I like that we do talk about Oscar bait. I like that we talk about these high-end movies. I like that we watch the Oscars, and I enjoy having an excuse to go watch all of these films that normally I would be like, I don't really care.
Yeah, I think of the listed of the Best Picture nominees this year, the only 2 I would have gone out of my way to find personally, I would have watched Conclave and I would have watched The Substance. I think I would have missed the rest.
I saw Conclave before it got nominated because my parents saw it in theaters and they loved it. And I love my parents to death, and they very rarely willingly go to the theaters. A lot of times I took them to go see Captain America. The only other movie I had seen with them in recent memory was we all went as a family to go see Oppenheimer. So it's very hard to actually get those 2 out of the house and into a movie theater for them both to actually say this movie is great. And it's like, oh, you 2 actually left your house for this. Okay. Might as well check it out.
Well, on that note, let us move on to, for the monkey, the critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Alrighty, this is about to be expected. On the tomato meter, we have a score of 69% from top critics. All critics, it goes up to 79%. It's about right. The audience score, because the audience is full of degenerate ingrates who don't know good comedy or good horror. I kid. Verified audience is 59%. All audiences 62%. This is not going to be a movie for everyone, and especially if you went into this from long legs expecting a more serious kind of horror movie. The AI crawl has cobbled together the following critical consensus. Cruelly clever with some unforgettable gory set pieces, The Monkey reaffirms director Osgood Perkins' horror bona fides while revealing he also has a surprising, albeit sick, sense of humor.
Yeah,
Accurate.
no kidding. Yeah, very accurate. Well, look who's at the very top.
Kevin Carr.
Hang on, frickin' square ad. Even as someone like me who has read the original story several times, I was mesmerized by the audacious and graphic nature of the movie, which delivers a shock-filled, bloody good time.
Not wholly inaccurate, although I imagine the length of the I imagine the length of the monkey is about the length of his attention span when it comes to reading and comprehension, but
One of the few times we agree with it, but you still got to find a way to insult the
I
man.
can't help it. Mark's not here. He'd make that joke if he was, and I'd let him do it. But
Hey, just be thankful that for once we're not getting paired up with future divorcees, okay? I don't have the attention span to do that. Okay,
we'll see who we
Sorry, go
come
ahead.
across.
Okay, Allie Ham from the Review Geek. Zaniness seems to be employed as a deliberate cover for the laziness of this poorly written, ill-conceived horror adaptation. What?
Okay, this is not poorly written. I will grant you it's a bit of a stretch to get this to its runtime. But you can say that without saying it's poorly written or ill-conceived. This is far from ill-conceived. A story about the atavastic horror of a generational curse embodied by this monkey toy is not a bad idea for a horror story.
All right. J.D. Duran, an in-session film. If we were not reviewing The Monkey, I would have walked out of the theater. Well, then you just suck at your job.
Look, I appreciate the sentiment. There's a few movies I've been very tempted to walk out of that I only stuck around for the sake of the review.
I hope that you're keeping track of that, because one day I just really want you to present a running tab of how much you have spent on this. It's like, you know what, Mark? I will not charge you for the movies I enjoyed, but here's the list of all the bullshit I had to watch for you. And just pull a freaking, oh my God, what was the name of Elvis Presley's manager? Colonel something.
Oh, yeah. Tom Hanks played him.
Yeah, but you get what I'm saying, right?
The itemized list going back to gas money from the fairgrounds where I first found you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a thought. Maybe one day I'll pull out the old scroll and just out the door.
Just start chucking receipts at him like you're throwing money at a stripper.
Here's all my movie receipts that I've had. I don't want to be here anymore.
Carson Tamar from Clappercast. This was outshined even by the Final Destination Bloodlines trailer alone.
Okay,
no,
that's
it
a very
wasn't.
One, no, I actually prefer the kills here. Two, that's a somewhat poorly constructed sentence.
Very. And again, that's the thing, is that with the I'm only going up to I'm not counting the first two Final Destination movies, because I actually think those were well done.
More or less.
And to this day, no one from our generation will ever drive behind a log truck.
True.
Even though we know scientifically the logs don't bounce. We're still not going to risk it.
Well, they don't bounce as high as the movie leads you to believe, but they don't just flop either. I forget the Mythbusters episode where they talked about that, if memory serves me, but yeah, again, it's just not worth it.
But after that, the deaths in those movies become so ill-conceived and contrived. It's just, like I mentioned earlier in this review, I watch those movies, I hear the theme song to the Mousetrap board game. It's like, shoots the ball right down the chute. Now watch the hole into the bowl. Now rock the man into the rub tub. Or I don't even remember the lyrics, but I know I hear that song in my head.
That was the joke that Benjamin Cologne made for the title card when Sean and I did The Long Road to Ruin on the Final Destination franchise. It's him and I in the final square of the Mousetrap with the death shadow under us and the Mousetrap contraptions around us. It's a really nice piece of work.
Ben, we love you. We miss you. We want you back on the show, man. But that's the thing, is that watching this one, the tongue-in-cheek sense of humor keeps you from hearing that. Even though some of the deaths are contrived, the sense of humor is with it. So you feel that you can laugh at it. When you're laughing at the deaths in Final Destination, you're not laughing with the movie, you're laughing at the movie.
And someone who could not understand that particular distinction, we have Brian Bissell of the Horror Movie Club podcast, who gets to be on Rotten Tomatoes while we toil in obscurity. Unfortunately, most of the monkey's attempts at dark humor do not land. The supreme arbiter of humor you are, sir. Good to know. The film is repetitive, nonsensical, and allows us no connection to its characters. That's not true. The film's confusing tone and CG kills further undermine its effort as a splatstick comedy.
Okay, there was only one moment of CGI in this film, admittedly, that I actually sat back and thought, okay, that could have been done better. It was the wasps.
The wasps staring at the decapitated head of Bill is not done the best. There's a few spots where the CGI in this you can see that it had the smaller budget that it did.
Mhm.
That said, I disagree about the comedy not landing. I had a great time with this.
I agree. Manuel Sal Benton from Movies We Texted About. That is a really stupid name for a
Yes,
movie
it
review
is.
site. The monkey teeters between ingenuity and frustration. Osgood Perkins crafts moments of inspiration and gets the best out of a solid cast, but the lack of cohesive identity prevents its erratic blend of tones and genres from reaching its true potential.
Okay, you're mistaking a feature for a bug, sir. That's kind of what's going on here. Like, if you're not willing to get down with the Looney Tunes element of this, you're gonna be left scratching your head. But it is.
Again, I get a lot of these people watch that scene with the wasps and just like, well, why didn't they sting Hal? He was there too. And it's like,
Because that's not how this works.
exactly. Same reason they didn't sting Jerry when they went into the freaking funnel to sting Tom in the mouth. I know exactly which cartoon I'm talking about.
Yeah.
David Nussar from Real Film Reviews. The relentless quirkiness eventually becomes stifling and exhausting. This was not relentless quirkiness, and I hate
How is this too much movie for you, sir?
I really get tired of people who don't understand what the word quirkiness means because they just assume it's anything different.
These are people who know that, like, oh, that got it. They attach that to indie movies because they think it's accurate because they're indie, and that's not true. Like, guys, this ain't Wes Anderson.
Now that's quirky.
Who has a quirky and whimsical style. This isn't 500 Days of Summer, which is indie-rific quirkiness, is like the identity of the film.
Pretty much. Well, you have Zooey Deschanel as the lead. If you're not going to go with quirky, then you have just failed to, understand your objective.
Yeah, if you cast her, she's one note. That's all you can do.
Yeah. Go watch The Happening and see what happens when you try to get her out of that.
Counterpoint, don't watch The Happening and be better off.
Very true.
Tim Roby of the Daily Telegraph UK, top critic. Perkins' film never explains how the monkey migrates so much. And you call me nitpicky bordering on autistic, but follows it from pillar to post on an equal opportunity killing spree. As spectacle, it's garish.
Somebody did not like all the blood and gore in this.
This is not a person who would give Sam Raimi the time of day.
No. Okay, Rotten Tomatoes, quit doing this whole load at the bonnet thing and making us scroll back up to find out where we were, okay? This is really annoying. Go back to the separate pages, please.
Or, again, don't automatically send us to the bottom, at least. Start us from where we were.
One of the two. Okay,
that's where we were. A lot of positives.
I did see one
worth reading here.
I got to
find any of our friends.
Let's see here. Not yet.
Adam does movies. We've made fun of him in the past.
Who have we made fun of?
Right there. Just Adam Ollinger of Adam Does Movies on YouTube. The Monkey is an incredibly unserious movie with some pretty gnarly kills. True. The dark humor worked for me, but the supreme arbiter of humor that we discussed earlier disagrees with you, so you can't be right. Some of the odd relationships did not, and that's because you have either healthy relationships in your life or are unable to understand unhealthy ones.
Or he's an only child.
Yeah, it could be that. I think there is enough here, though, to entertain and forgive the shortcomings. Yeah, by and large.
Okay. Oh, here's the negative. Keith Garlington of Keith at the Movies. At times, the horror and humor click, leading some pretty good comic payoffs. But those efforts are overshadowed by the tonal chaos, its lack of tension, and the half-baked story, which almost feels like an afterthought. Well, I don't understand why these people think the tone of this. It's like, we know what the tone is. It's dark comedy.
These are people who did not grow up with Looney Tunes.
No, they didn't.
And it's very obvious.
It's like, go watch freaking Tom and Jerry. My God, people. Okay. Oh, Grace Rand. Okay, Grace Randolph beyond the trailer gave it positive. A funny, clever, poignant, disturbing, and haunting film!
Okay,
Exclamation
that's a
point.
little much, Grace.
I think she's going for the Tick Bird review.
A little bit.
The Monkey is a surprisingly highbrow horror film that's clearly deeply personal for writer/director Osgood Perkins. Because of that, he has some very unique and interesting things to say. She's not wrong. We did talk about that.
She's not wrong, but man, that last sentence is like 11th grade English level writing. Okay.
Oh, this is interesting. While it can from Nate Adams, the only critic. You
Only
lie.
critic. Ignore
lie,
everyone
sir.
else.
While it can sometimes be overly silly and occasionally on the nose at its best, The Monkey channels the spirit of Evil Dead with a dash of Peter Jackson's 1992 Splatterfest Brain Dead. You know what? I'll give that. I'll give it.
Not wrong at all.
I appreciate anyone who could pull out a pre Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson reference.
Fun fact, it was actually Brain Dead that got Kate Blanchett interested in working with him on Lord of the Rings.
Really?
Because she'd seen it and was like, I got to work with the maniac who did this.
Goldman Spildy of Salon.com, top critic.
Former news outlet.
As long as the jokes are funny, there's plenty of space for humor and horror, but the film's scattershot writing leaves its punchlines hitting dead air before falling smack against the floor.
Again,
Aren't you clever?
Physical comedy is lost on these people.
Adam Naiman of The Ringer, top critic. It's one thing to try and create a goofy, gory crowd pleaser. It's another to steadily bleed the enjoyment out of the equation by making the movie in question as smug and unpleasant as possible.
How do you get smug out of this? Like, I'll grant you, if you don't care for some of how this movie goes about it, this could be an unpleasant viewing experience. I'll give you that. I don't know how you think this movie is smug. It's too self-aware to actually be smug.
Okay. This one actually brings up an interesting question. Clarice Laffrey from The Independent UK, top critic. It's a diabolically fun premise, but it needed somebody cagier to sell it. Now, okay. Let's just take a moment. Imagine this with Nick Cage playing the twins.
That's weird.
Yeah, that's very weird.
I
love Nick Cage. I do.
I do too, but I actually think playing it as straight as it was for the two leads is actually what makes most of this work.
That's true.
I don't think we need a Jim Carrey over the top kind of performance here on this.
Yeah, you know what? I love Nicolas Cage, and I think he would have done okay. I think he would have been good, but I feel like he would have been kind of wasted. We don't need.
I don't think there's enough character work here to have made a Nicolas Cage performance worth it.
No. Actually, you know who they should have put Nicolas Cage as? He should have played Elijah Wood's role.
Ooh, now that's mean. That's just mean. I don't need to hate Nick Cage that much.
But come on, that would be great.
Yeah, that would have worked. All right, Kyle Smith of the Wall Street Journal, that vaunted former publication. What dies in darkness again? Oh, right, your credibility. The audience had a right to expect something more than a cheap exercise in willful nauseation from someone as talented as Mr. Perkins. My man, if this nauseates you, you have a weak stomach.
Again, this is an insanely gory film, but we have seen way worse body horror on this network. This was tame by comparison to something like The Substance or Color Out of Space.
Yeah, that bespeaks of a very weak-stomached, weak-constitutioned individual. You are what I made fun of Mark for being about 5-6 years ago.
You can go ahead and make fun of Mark for it now. He bowed out of this review.
That was a timing issue. It wasn't a
I know.
content issue.
I'm
Well, I've made enough fun of him over the years for it that now that we've actually bullied him into being okay with a little bit of the gore, I have to give him credit for it. Otherwise, I'm just a jackass.
Well, you are a jackass.
No, I'm not just a jackass.
I know, but we love you for being a jackass.
All right.
All right, let's wrap this up. We're coming up on 2 hours here. Let's see here.
Keep
Stephen
going. Let's find somebody else.
Oh, okay.
I don't feel like giving him the time of day.
We have Aaron Peterson of The Hollywood Outsider and Eric Marchant of Rogers TV. Okay.
Oh, wow. Peter Travers liked it. That's odd.
Huh.
Yeah, I'm just surprised he liked it.
Friend of the show, William Bibbiani.
Best friend of the show and Mark's life partner.
Future ex. There, see, I made it work.
Future ex Mr. Radulich, William Bibbiani.
Yay, I made the joke work.
You did.
A sick and twisted work of comic genius where the punchlines punch so hard you'll explode. Shit, that's
a good
actually a good line.
That's a pretty decent line, and that's a good one to wrap up this segment on.
All right. It's now that was a really good joke. Props to you, Mr. Bibbiani.
Yeah,
that was actually quite funny.
We'll give you credit on that one. I've had issues with his wordplay in the past. That was a pretty decent one. Well, on that note, everybody, we're about done here. So thank you very much for tuning in. Alexis, what do you got to plug?
All right. Well, I will be back in 2 nights from when we're recording this. Mr. Mark Radulich and I will be talking about The Bear season 2. We already talked about season 1.
Bears.
Had a lot of fun discussing that. Looking forward to talking about season 2. Get to talk with him whether or not he gets offended by the phrase Jewish lightning.
He probably won't be offended by it, but I doubt that was his favorite line of the season.
Probably not, but I had to bring it up.
You did, look, much as the same way I have to bring up that, the fact that the best scene in that season is the Punisher throwing cutlery at Saul Goodman. Like, what are you going to do?
Pretty much. I'm going to talk about how Binging with Babish actually recreated the Feast of the Seven Fishes.
Yeah, that was a thing they tried.
Can't knock it. I love seafood. I will actually be taking a step back from the Radulich and Broadcasting Network for most of this month. Previously, I had said I wanted to be on the reviews of Mickey 17 and Novocaine, which we mentioned we got coming up. Robert, Mr. Winfrey here, will be returning to host those. I need to take a little personal time to get caught up with things for my company. Busy season is about to start, and I am drastically behind. January just kind of got way too busy. In addition to way more orders than we're used to, we had some personal issues, my husband being in the hospital and me having to buy a new car after I got T-boned. So things just got a little more chaotic than I'm used to for that time of the year. So I got to take some time to get things wrapped up, put together, get my taxes taken care of. I should have done my freaking tax paperwork ages ago, but I will be back, God help us, to review Snow White.
Again, I will not fault you one iota if you find an excuse to get out of that.
For the record, we were supposed to review Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man this last week. Had to shelve that. Sadly, my cohort in question, Miss Shay Tate, got really sick with what we think was a nasty flu bug. We have
around.
not... Yeah, tell me about this.
Knocked me on my butt for about 48 hours.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, with the drastic changes in the weather, this is the time of year everyone gets sick.
Yeah.
If you haven't gotten your flu shot yet, folks, head to your pharmacy, get that taken care of. We have not gotten the Spider-Man show back on the schedule yet. Hopefully, we will take care of that soon. Especially because I want to talk about all the research that I had to go through looking up Steve Ditko art and how they translated that into this new series. So hopefully we'll have that on their screen.
Unevenly.
Do you want to come on the show and talk about it?
Oh, heavens, no. I'd have to watch.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Nice try.
My comment there is purely about the art style. Some of it, thumbs up. As an animation style and some of the other stuff they did, yeah, no. But look, it's a mixed bag because it's a mixed bag. That doesn't mean it's terrible.
I was mostly just talking about Peter Parker's look of round glasses, blue jacket, and yellow shirt/vest. That is Steve Ditko's trademark look for the character.
Oh yeah. And of course, because we're doing Spider-Man, he's back in high school because we can't let Peter Parker move beyond the age of 18.
Fortunately, you know what? It was a show that was meant to bring in a new generation of Spider-Man fans. This was meant to be the new version of the Amazing Spider-Man show that we grew up watching on Fox Saturday mornings.
Which itself was real iffy.
Mostly just because they took so much dialogue, comic verbatim, without realizing, there's a reason most people don't talk like this out loud.
And the censors deciding you can't show him punching anyone. Like, stuff.
Oh, yeah, the cops all having laser guns and Blade having a lightsaber.
Blade has a lightsaber, and Morbius, the living vampire, sucks plasma.
With his hands.
Yeah.
You gave him fangs, but he ain't using them.
There's a reason that people who think fondly on that show tend to do it through the rosiest of rose-colored glasses. If you take them off and examine that whole thing, boy, is it a mess.
Very true, but I do give it credit that it was a major jumping point for a whole generation to get interested in comics. How many people do we know who probably didn't know that much about Batman until they watched the Bruce Timm Paul Dini animated series? And that's perfectly fine. We all get introduced to these characters one way or another. And if this show is the new generation's jumping point to getting interested in Spider-Man comics, then I say so be it.
Look, I introduce people to Batman via Batman and Robin, and I introduce them to Spider-Man.
You sick son of a bitch!
Yes. Look, if I show them that, they don't continue. And then I'm doing my part to whittle down these industries. I know.
God, I think Dante forgot to write about the Ring of Hell reserved for people like you.
People who decide that your introduction to Batman should be Batman and Robin followed by Batman Returns.
Yes.
In that order.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. It's the worst.
I'm going to go get my Allegari and see if I can find where you're ending up.
I have at least 2 copies of the Inferno, so I don't know. I don't know which one. I can't call it betrayal because I have no loyalty to those, but
I did an entire art series on the 7 Rings of Hell, so. But no. Okay, moving on. I will find other ways to insult you later for this. Okay.
First of all, 9 circles of hell, not 7, but.
Well, I did it on the 7 deadly sins, not specifically the individual circles mentioned by Dante.
So you did the 3 beasts.
I'll show you the artwork later, actually, if you're interested. I'm kind of proud of myself of it.
Because it's what wolf, leopard, and was it a lion? That's the 3rd one.
Well, like I said, I focus more on the atmosphere of the 7 deadly sins than I did the actual beasts. But anyway, so those who actually are interested in listening to us talk about our show and not talk about what we do in our free time. Okay, so yes, again, those of you who want to come back for another Damn Hollywood next week, Mark and Robert will be reviewing Mickey 17. And the week after that, Jason Teasley will be coming back to join you guys to discuss Novocaine, a.k.a. Jack Quaid's publicists decide they really like watching him get the shit kicked out of him.
Every mid-budget film these days is either about how your boyfriends are the worst thing in the world or a nobody going on a murder rampage, either because they're a secret CIA assassin or just are fed up everyman, and they both star Jack Quaid. The state of film these days.
There are worse things to happen to film.
Jack Quaid is not, in fact, the worst thing to happen to film. That's very true. Yet. You know what? He might get there. Just throwing it out. You know what, Jack? Here's my challenge to you. Become the worst thing in the film industry. I don't know how you do it, but I want to see you try.
Speaking of Jack Quaid and the boys, you did hear the announcement about the final season, right? We're getting our supernatural reunion.
Yeah, I saw that, at which point I just rolled my eyes and went, okay, Eric Kripke, you have lost the plot.
I'm sorry, I'm a big Supernatural fan. That was one of my favorite shows. And I love Jared Padalecki and Misha. Oh my God,
Collins.
blinking on the dude's name. The guy who played Castiel.
Collins.
Misha Collins, thank you. I was getting it mixed up with another actor. No, and I love that they're coming in for it's supposed. I don't know if it's going to be for like a multi-episode thing or if it's just a fun cameo. But either way, this is the last season of The Boys, so I think it's a fun way to throw a little homage in there to send it off.
Again, I just think at this point he's bordering on pandering, and that makes me. I hope I'm wrong, for the record, and that's nothing against Jared Padalecki, who is a fine actor, or Misha Collins, who's also a fine actor. It's mostly just the last season of The Boys soured me on some of the creative direction. And if he's going, hey, remember this thing I used to do that has a fan base? That's a red flag for me. It's not a red line, but that's not a good indicator for me. But still curious to see how they're going to wrap that up and how bad. Look, I will tune in for the train wreck if it turns into a train wreck, because that's just where I am with that show.
All right. Now, other than that, where else can our viewers find you?
I cover mixed martial arts and professional wrestling over at 411mania.com. I covered UFC on ESPN Plus 111 this last Saturday, which was a thoroughly forgettable night of warehouse fights. But this Saturday is UFC 313, so big pay-per-view, light heavyweight title fight main event, a guaranteed violence affair, a rematch actually in the co-main event between Justin Gaethje and Rafael Fiziev. I'm very much down for that. If you want a full preview, listen to the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast. I review, I preview, I talk news. It's a good time had by all. Also this week, I'll be covering WWE SmackDown on Friday, and Sunday I will be covering AEW's, where are we in the schedule? Revolution, I believe. Whatever pay-per-view they're having on Sunday. I got asked to pinch hit for that one, so I will talk AEW and why it's a bad idea to have your big company-wide angle about the world champion suddenly probably losing it to 50-plus-year-old ex-WWE guy Cope, who will then be cashed in on by his buddy Christian, and this is all we've built to. And at which point I will laugh heartily while a bunch of people throw their pants at the screen. I'm kidding. Okay, that's a possibility. I don't think it's a likelihood, and I really hope it isn't. But it would be very on brand for AEW to do that right after WWE just did the most interesting thing they've done in maybe years and have John Cena turn heel. So who knows?
I was seeing news about that. That's making waves.
He hasn't been a bad guy in 22 years. His last run as a heel ended in 2003. Well, towards it would have been towards November of 2003, so okay, 22 and a half, give or take.
Well, he's got to do something till Peacemaker Season 2 comes out.
Yeah, and this will be a thing he can do. The fact that he and The Rock have formed an alliance, and it's tentatively being referred to online as the Break-A-Wish Foundation. I don't know if that's the cleverest thing they've done in a minute or two, or if it's the worst. But I'm moderately curious to see where that goes. So we'll see how things play out. But I will cover those, and then as mentioned next week, Mark and I talk once again about how Bong Joon-ho can't help but hate the system that allows him to make movies. As a serious note, because I made a joke there that I want you all to understand, I know is a joke. I'm fine with the critique of capitalism. It deserves to be critiqued, as does every economic system. So my concern with Mr. Ho, is that, again, it's kind of a one-trick thing, because what's Snowpiercer? Oh, the oppression of people by the elite. Okay. It's a good movie. Hey, what's Parasite? The oppression of the regular person by the elite. Like, again, buddy, you got talent, just don't be a one-trick pony. But we'll see if he is next week, when I also get to yell about Mark Ruffalo being, well, Mark Ruffalo.
It's Mark Ruffalo being the cheap version of Donald Trump, and you know it.
Like I said, Mark Ruffalo being Mark Ruffalo. He is an insufferable individual.
Duly noted. Okay, and as for my plugs that actually do pay the bills, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. Like I said earlier, we just wrapped up Missouri Paracon. That was an interesting experience. In a room in a casino with about 300 active ghost hunters who take themselves way too seriously.
I was going to say, like, those are either people who go to those kind of conventions are either really in on the joke or really not in on the joke.
There were two kinds of people at this convention. People who were, like, serious about ghost hunting, and people who owned haunted locations. The table next to me owned a haunted inn out of Atchison, Kansas. Very nice lady, joked with her for a while, but there were so many people just wanting to talk to her about all the things that have happened in this house. To which I quickly realized, wow, ghost hunters are just influencers.
They've become that, yes.
Yeah.
There was a time when that was a genuine expression of your own mental handicaps and weirdness, and I say that with love. Now it's how many Instagram and TikTok followers can you get while going through these haunted locations and being everyone's trying to do the Ghost Hunters TV show, but in, digestible 30-second formats. And to whatever extent that was an industry, boy, they have killed it.
I have nothing against having fun with ghost hunting. One of my professors from college actually has written a book about haunted locations in Missouri, in which he did a lot of study about the history of said locations and whatnot. And it's a really good book. And I have nothing against going on trips that's like, let's go stay at this house, this hotel. It's supposedly haunted, and having fun with it. But the people like this, it would basically are live streaming the whole thing saying, okay, come with me, come with me. Ooh, I felt something. Did you feel something? Hi, I just felt something.
Yeah.
And just the entire convention was people just, again, live streaming and taking pictures of them getting their books signed by other people. So after a while, it's just like, I am so
what
in
an
the wrong
unholy
place.
Ouroboros.
Pretty much. Don't ask me how much I made in sales. I don't want to feel the shame.
The shame that it's low or the shame that it's high?
Low, really low. The organizers were very nice, though. Credit to them. It was a well-run convention. The rest of everyone are there. All the speakers, all the presenters were all really cool people. So I had fun actually talking to a local psychic group out of nearby city. So I was at least had a good time with that. Actually had a lot of fun talking to this girl who wood burned Ouija boards. I missed my opportunity. I wanted one that had a death's head moth burned into it. And it was just like, I mean, you know how obsessed I am with Silence of the Lambs. So it's like, that is so cool.
Yeah, that would be you should do it on the planchette is where you put them off.
Either way, gorgeous work of art. But so we are done with that, and we are actually going to be heading to Planet Comic-Con here in Kansas City at the end of the month. That is the weekend of March 21st. Looking forward to that. We've got David Tennant, Catherine Tate, Christopher Lloyd, Christina Ricci, a bunch of big name celebrities coming to this one. Going to have so much fun. This is our home show. We never miss it. Looking forward to it. As always, if you can't make it, you can find our shops on Etsy, which is what I got here on the screen. If you're a big horror fan like I am, you can see we've got tons of horror jewelry. I actually just had one of my favorite pieces up here, the Lament Configuration Bracelet, because it doesn't count as opening the box if you just use them on tiles, right?
Only one way to find out.
I actually kind of told myself that when I was first designing. I was like, this doesn't count as opening the box, right? I've seen that movie too many times. It's like, I know it's fiction, but you can't help but just swallow that lump in your throat when you're doing this.
They re-released that not too long ago as a Fathom event for.
I saw the trailers for that. Yeah.
Took my youngest brother to see it because he loves that movie as much as I do, and boy, is seeing that on the big screen a different experience in some respects. The audio is very clearly designed for that kind of setting because there's some stuff that you may not pick up on if all you've got is headphones.
Very nice. Let me know when they finally put Hellraiser 5 on the big screen. I'll pay money to see that. But yeah, you can see we got that. We got our UFO abduction earrings. We got our boot bucket earrings. Those of you who are has-been hotel fans like me, we got the V's as a hairbread. If you're a fan of Lore Olympus, we got the Persephone and Hades pieces. Shining fan like me, we got the Red Rum hairbreads, one of my favorites. So again, you can find us on Etsy, or we also have a shop on Handmade at Amazon. As always, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and as long as it's still around, TikTok. It's literally week to week nowadays with that. Again, that's Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. So for myself, Mr. Robert Winfrey, thank you for tuning in with us. And remember, find your parents' toys in the attic. Just leave them alone.